We're kind of back on the cycle once again of dumb shit happening in the government, and then the coup, and then something happening at the Olympics. But first things first, we're going to go down to Texas here, take a look at what's going on, because yes, special sessions are being called, and Democrats still aren't showing up. So this is going to enter into one of the biggest, most watched games of chicken that you're going to see in a long time. I don't know who's going to blink first on this one. I have a feeling it's probably going to be the Democrats at the end of the day, and then just end up trying to lump it all on racism, or I don't know, somebody's being a tyrant in Austin, or blah blah blah, and just fucking complain into oblivion, and then sink any opportunity that they had to flip Texas blue in 2022, because A, it's not that far away, and B, people at least have pretty decent short-term memory. So anybody who's up in rather vulnerable positions that are choosing to fly away and skirt their responsibility of representing the electorate, well, guess what? They aren't going to be around for the next session. But like it says here, Texas House special session adjourned as not enough Democrats are present. Yes, so once again, they cannot hold a quorum. Not enough people are there in order to constitutionally have a binding vote, so it couldn't be conducted. So many of the laws, not just exclusively the election integrity laws, but there were a whole host of them as well. There was at least 5 major pieces of legislation that needed to be voted on, and Democrats just think, oh, it's all racism, so we don't need to show up and validate your evil opinions. No, you just, hopefully they get taxed, hopefully they get sanctioned, because, yeah, they're just a dereliction of duty that is just continuing to go on. So unless you hit them in the pocketbook, these grifters never fucking learn. So hopefully that's something they can do. Let's take a look. Texas House Speaker Dave Fellon on Saturday called the lower chamber to be adjourned until Monday, as not enough Democrats showed up for the special session. I do also kind of appreciate them sticking to their guns on this one, not just, okay, A, fleeing to Washington, B, getting sick, and then C, coming back, and then still just not showing up. A little bit of respect there, but then that's massively overwritten by the fact that, yes, anybody else in any other job that doesn't show up continually, they would get fired. So, give them a little bit of credit, but 98% of that pie is completely rotten. Texas House Democrat Caucus Chair Chris Turner said the Democrats broke the quorum in an attempt to block the Republicans' election bill. And there's many other bills there. You should be very well aware of that. The Texas House Democrats continue to fight to stop Texas Republicans' efforts to undermine our democracy. Yeah, just yours, not the entirety, not the Republic of Texas, which that's the official name of Texas. So where are you coming up with this whole democracy thing? You just fucking brain dead anyways. So, you guys are missing the point, but you already knew that. By passing their anti-voter legislation. Oh, I can see you guys trying to use some rhetoric in order to shift the conversation. Very clever. Day by day, we will keep fighting, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a fuck. Democrats have argued that the GOP-backed voting overhaul bill would unfairly target minority groups in the Lone Star State. No, it wouldn't. You guys are just cheaters. Don't care. The DOJ, meanwhile, some more just retarded legislation. Okay, because we've seen the the eviction moratorium. You can see why those are just so closely linked. It was set to expire because the Democrats couldn't draft up any legislation, push it through the House. It just needed to get through the not House of Commons. Again, I'm just mixing everything up. The House of Representatives. It just needed to get through the lower chamber in order to continue the moratorium legally for as long as they needed to draft it up. They have the majority. I don't like it. I think it's one of the most evil things and another step towards a socialist utopia. And by socialist utopia, I mean take a look at the past with Mao's China and Stalin's USSR, and it effectively just socializes housing, which couldn't think of anything worse. They just called for the unanimous vote in the House, and then obviously at least some sensible Republicans just decided, no, that's kind of stupid. And I'd imagine there are probably some reasonable Democrats as well that aren't necessarily behind this whole hog. And then speaking of the whole hog, Cori Bush went out there and had her camp out that was very well attended. Let's leave it at that. And then the CDC just decided to stick their their nose in there, and I don't know why we're letting unelected bodies push forward pieces of legislation. They said that, yeah, we should really extend the moratorium because, I don't know, my Delta variant, and don't worry, in 60 days they'll have a different variant, or it'll be a lot closer to the winter, and they'll be able to justify more lockdowns, which are definitely coming. Don't worry, they're coming. The DOJ tells the court, don't block the new eviction moratorium, even though you guys already did and ruled it unconstitutional. Please don't do that again if you know what's good for you. Otherwise, we're just going to pack all your courts. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You can also see where this is going. The new eviction moratorium should not be blocked, Department of Justice lawyers told in a court filing on Friday. Why? After 2 federal courts deemed the nationwide eviction pause unlawful, there you go, the Supreme Court indicated that only Congress could extend the ban on, or put into place a new one. The pause expired and no moratorium was in place. There you go. It's clear as day. And that comes from the Supreme Court, which is supposed to, by letter of the law, just interpret said law, and that's what they told you. No, you need to pass legislation in order to do this. Yeah, but we don't want to, and that requires work. We'd rather just be activists. Well, you can't fucking do that. No. So I guess we're kind of getting intergovernmental agencies just starting to butt heads. This ain't going to end well. President Joe Biden muttered into his soup. And officials within his administration said they were constrained by the court rulings, but abruptly changed course on Tuesday, imposing a pause for 2 months on 80% in the United States. Oh my God. This is so evil. This is pandering to losers at the expense of people just trying to have ancillary income, participate in the capitalist economy that's out there. Like, okay, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Most landlords just own a couple of properties. They just charge enough rent to either pay for the mortgage, pay for the upkeep, and maybe turn a little bit of a profit. It's all not fucking slumlords. It's not all of those things that you see on TV of people living in fucking squalor. Most of the time, it's not fucking like that. I'd say 90% of interactions with landlords are mostly pretty fucking good, okay? And you mostly have a good relationship with your landlord. And one of the worst ways to go about this entire situation after the lockdowns, after people have been slowly getting back to work, after there's been incentive after incentive to get back into the workforce, people just want to continue to sit on their asses and collect, enough money to survive, but not enough to make a difference. But again, if you don't have to pay for your dwelling, if you don't have to pay for any of the utilities either way, and the landlord can't turn them off because the moratorium makes them keep it, so the renters or the dwellers, or in this case really squatters, have to live in a dwelling they're accustomed to be in, something that they were promised in the rental agreement, except the renters, or the rentees in this case, don't have to uphold their end of the bargain. Sounds fun, doesn't it? Landlords and other real estate owners quickly asked the court to block the new eviction ban, arguing the U.S. District Court Judge Dabney Frederick that the executive branch was exceeding its authority. Very much so. The substance and effect of the CDC's latest actions is an extension of the same unlawful ban on evictions that has been in effect since September of 2020, they said. The counter-filing Friday, Department of Justice lawyers amended the new pause is not the same because it does not apply to the entire country. It's the exact same thing. They're using the same justification. Oh no, it just doesn't affect everybody. Therefore, the people it does apply to, we can just use the same justification that got it blocked in the first case. This is high-level legalese right here. And they think just because they have the cover of the Department of Justice, they're allowed to get away with this nonsense. We'll see how far they get with it. It's a bold strategy. Let's see if it pays off. The lawyers also noted that recent Supreme Court ruling left the prior ban in place, even though Justice Brett Kavanaugh, a Trump nominee, that's a very sketchy situation because the guy that Brett Kavanaugh replaced would only retire if Kavanaugh was going to be the nominee. So either he would have been retiring under this current Biden administration, Justice Kennedy, and Biden would have been able to pick his replacement, or you get stuck with milquetoast Kavanaugh. Okay, so it kind of doesn't sound that bad either way. Said he believed the Center for Disease Control and Prevention overstepped its authority, and that's why they're calling for his head once a fucking again. They're, trying to look at different ways to impeach him out of there because he said that the CDC, remember, an unelected official, is de facto writing legislation. It's fucking weird timeline that we live in. I agree with the district court and the applicant that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention exceeded its existing statutory authority by issuing a nationwide eviction moratorium, Kavanaugh, the swing vote, wrote in a concurring opinion. How could... Oh my God. Okay, you already know the 3 liberal justices who would have sided with extending the moratorium to begin with. You would have had Old Man Breyer, you would have had Sotomayor, and you would have had Kagan. And then obviously on the other side, you would have had Alito and Gorsuch and Thomas. Did Robert side with the liberals? That totally makes sense. But so could have ACB. It's like, she's just as bad, okay? God, that could go down as being Trump's worst fucking decision. But again, it's another one of those things that he didn't really have a lot of experience with. And I'm not trying to run cover for Trump. I'm just trying to tell you, based on the information that I've gleaned from his presidency and also reading some of his books, when he doesn't know something, he tries to put people in place that do know something. And unfortunately, the people he put to lord over the judiciary, they were Mitch McConnell's people. And they selected ACB when Barbara Lagoa was just sitting right there, and she would have been another Alito or Thomasite. What a different world we'd be living in right now. But anyways, back to this. Because the CDC plans to end the moratorium in only a few weeks on July 31st, and because the few weeks will allow for additional and more orderly distribution of the congressionally appointed rental assistance funds, I vote at this time to deny the application to vacate the district court's stay of its order. The other 4 justices who voted to keep the ban in place did not explain their votes, nor did the 4 justices who vote to struck it down. But really, this is not good, and if it continues to go on, which all signs point to it will, mostly for reasons we'll get to probably right now for all intents and purposes. I was going to put this in the next one, so I was just trying to think if we're going to put it in here or not. But lockdown forever, Boris Johnson drafts plan for Firebreak winter shutdown. Yes, of course. We could see this coming from a fucking mile away. It's just if anybody's going to push back on it at this point, okay? Boris Johnson said before, there wasn't going to be another lockdown, that Freedom Day was going to go on first when he set out the date, and then when he pushed it back, and then July 19th, everybody was going to be free, and it was going to be wonderful, and there was going to be no more lockdown. Yeah, and the White House has been saying the exact same stuff as well, and yeah, and there was no talk of booster shots, now we're there. No, of course not, and everybody thought, yeah, you could throw away your masks, until they told you to put your masks back on. Yep. How much more are we going to put up with exactly? Anyways, let's take a look. A contingency plan for the implementation of Firebreak lockdowns. That's like the circuit breaker lockdowns that happened in Australia. Those are going so well, right? They're definitely defeating the virus. In the winter have been drawn up by British government despite earlier promises to end the lockdowns, and Britain would be irreversible. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has authorized the planning of short-term lockdown restrictions should the country's socialized healthcare system, the NHS, become overwhelmed in the autumn and winter months. Of course they will. Well, will they become overwhelmed? Well, they haven't been so far, but is there going to be an influx of patients? Yes, that's how these cycles have worked since the outset of the pandemic, and based on the fact that this is a coronavirus after all, those tend to be cyclical events. So the fact that we're seeing a dip right now in overall loads at hospitals, it's very normal. It's very natural. It's exactly what happened last year when we were still dealing with all of this fucking shit. Speaking to the I newspaper, a senior government source said, should more lockdowns be necessary? They aren't. Because they didn't work, and they don't work. The necessary plan is for them to be short. Just like the ones in Australia. Whenever there's one case, guess what? We're going to lock down everybody for 2 weeks. And that'll be the way to contain this virus. That's why it's been so successful, and they've had to go through 6 different circuit breaker lockdowns. See why I keep reporting on these ideas? Like, this is exactly what's on the fucking horizon. It starts somewhere, and then it just trickles out throughout the rest of the world. So that's exactly what they're doing here. Barring a new vaccine-beating strain, fears over a rise in infections similar to that seen last autumn were actually outweighed by other issues like the NHS staffing crisis and the likely resurgence of flu infections and other respiratory diseases on top of COVID infections. These factors could tip the NHS back to the brink and force more lockdowns, except for you took a look at all of the bed statistics that were out there, and I don't think very many, I didn't specifically look up the beds for the NHS, but we recently looked at the ones where, oh, there's such a spike in Florida and it's record numbers. 25% of the ICU is filled up. 25 fucking percent in the entire state. And I'm sure some of the hospitals with ICU beds probably don't have any. We took a look when everything was at its height and when it was all at its most scary time in Alberta here. And similar numbers, similar fucking numbers, nothing to be threatened about, nothing to worry about it being pushed to the brink, even though you see all of those stupid fucking posts on places like Twitter and Facebook that oddly enough read exactly the same. I've been to emergency rooms and we are being overrun. We need to do something about this virus. As you see it being posted over and over and over again by different, definitely not bot accounts. They're coming. They're coming, but are we going to fight back? Don't know. Don't know. And then to just finally segue off of this, one of the last big pieces of legislation that's going through is all of the pork, because we've seen that, that bipartisan infrastructure bill that was actually going to take a look at all of the infrastructure that's out there, $550 billion worth of stuff anyways, that was agreed upon by that fucking cabal of rhinos and weirdo Democrats, but need not be redundant. That one was going to get passed through. Don't worry, that one would be fine. And then all of the additional horseshit that was in there, the $1.2 trillion that has a whole host of really stupid shit. All of the earmarked bills in there, all of the additional little special interest programs, like the gender studies in Pakistan. It's a legitimate thing that's in there. That's where all of this stuff goes. They split it off into two. They didn't really do anything because I guess they seen that, people take a look and it's like $1.9 trillion. Why is the government spending that much? But all of a sudden it seems like $1.2 trillion is a little bit more palatable. The public is an ass. Let's be frank. And here's a little bit more that's in there that I really find disturbing on several levels. Infrastructure bill mandates drunk driver detectors for new cars. Now, of course, okay, we'll walk down this path once again. It's one of those things that's like, cameras in cars of convicted drunk drivers. Of course, you know what? They already have to blow into the vehicle in order to start it to prove that they haven't had anything to drink. And you know what? Having cameras in there just seems like the next logical progression because you know what? We want to keep drunk drivers off the roads, and something I can sympathize with for reasons that I need not explain, but trust me, I have very good reason to believe as much. But who in their right mind believes, especially in today's day and age, this is going to stay specific to just the drunk drivers, and this isn't going to be something that's just going to be implemented into brand new vehicles, to say like the ones that need to be created. So the new executive order that Joe Biden signed not that long ago, I think that's the one that he was signing when he was out there sniffing kids. I have to be more specific, in the recent days where he called the daughter of a slain police officer to come creepily sit on his lap. It was the one where by 2030, half of the vehicles out there need to be electric in order to be sold. Now, these cameras are going to they're going to become the standard in every new vehicle. You fucking watch. The $1.2, come on, let's be accurate. $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, a bipartisan, 2,702 a page bill. So much shit is stuck in there that we'll be figuring out for fucking years to come. Don't worry, because it's going to take centuries to pay off this fucking debt. But that's all right, because money machine go brrrr. Has been locked in negotiations for months between Democrats and Republicans will mandate all new vehicles must have the technology to detect drunk drivers. There it is. And alert systems to check back seats before turning off the vehicle. Final vote will be likely before next Monday. Yep, there it is. No, it's just for drunk drivers. No, they just want to make sure that they're keeping their eyes on the road and there's nothing bad that's going on. So it's one of those things, okay, that driving, the independence that you have when you're driving a vehicle, there is nothing as replicatable, okay? There is a sense of freedom you get when you hop behind the wheel of a car, a truck, a van. If you do that, you have way too many kids, so you need as much freedom as you can possibly get. Even an ATV, a Skidoo, there's nothing quite like that feeling of just hopping in, going for a drive, and just decompressing. And now the government, now GM, Nissan, Volvo in that picture, I think, or who knows, they're going to be watching you at all times. This is the future that these idiots want. And they want to not phase it in because it would make sense. It's just because they're authoritarians and they just want to know what you're doing at all fucking times. And it's always packaged as for your safety. For everybody else's safety as well. Because yeah, when you're drunk and you're driving, I'd imagine, I don't partake in the drink, obviously, I've made that very public. But yeah, no, you could just as easily wrap your vehicle around a light standard as you could just plow over a family. And you want to take as many precautions in order to avoid that happening again in the future, or happening at all, really. So this is just careful consideration by the auto manufacturers. Sensors embedded within the vehicle's cabin will track the driver's eye movement, and monitor signs of being distracted. Oh, cool. Impaired or tired, Bloomberg notes. This technology is similar to the ones police officers use when pulling over suspected drunk drivers. Debbie Dignall, a Michigan Democrat, released a statement that read, "We can't wait any longer. Yes, we can. To make our roads safer from drunk driving accidents." Yeah, it's normally people in your party, normally elected officials, that get pulled over for drunk driving, especially in Michigan. You should know very well. It's the one who was in charge of the money out there for Gretchen Whitmer at the state level. Yeah, he was the one who was pulled over because he went down to Florida and then he drove back drunk. So, you know what? Yeah, maybe she's just talking specifically about her party, but maybe you guys are the ones who should be doing better and not enforcing this madness to the public. The inclusion of my bill in the bipartisan infrastructure package will help incentivize the development and implementation of technology to stop drunk driving once and for all and save lives. I'm sure it'll stop that. I'm sure it will. Other than providing many a very awkward picture of somebody either picking their nose, putting on their makeup, or maybe the horrified look on their face as they try to pick a little ribbon out of their grill. But yeah, let's fucking get to the bottom of this anyways. Senate advances Biden's $1.2 trillion infrastructure package with 18 GOP votes, so expect cameras in your new cars into the future. The Senate moved to advance President Biden's $1.2 trillion infrastructure package on Saturday, clearing a key procedural hurdle to end debate and clear the bill. Of the 67 to 23 vote, we will run through those 18 Republicans. Trust me, because you need to know their names. You really do, because trillions is not a term that should be thrown around all willy-nilly. That's going to be burdening potentially like my great-grandkids. So these people need to be held accountable. Hopefully they will. I kind of doubt it. A total of 18 Republicans voted with every Democrat. Oh, but what about the moderates like Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin? Every Democrat voted for this. Every single one. The vote takes the bill one step closer to final passage, which could come as early as Saturday afternoon. It hasn't so far. Though more likely Sunday or Monday. I would not say today, but there is still horse trading. They're so fucking old. There are still amendments to be worked out. People are still submitting amendments, of course. They already know that they have 18 Republicans on board, so whatever they want to fucking push, whatever special interest group they can go ahead and align the pockets of, just fucking continue to just, pass it out. Fucking smoke them if you got them. Republicans, even ones who don't want to support the bill, are very interested in working on the legislation, and that's what they're doing. No, it's not. Among the Republicans voting in favor to advance the bill was Senate Leader GOP Mitch McConnell. Who's shocked by that? Okay, we got to go to Ben Shapiro's stupid outlet to just get a rundown of everything. But we got Roy Blunt, no surprise. Richard Burr, again, no surprise. Shelley Moore Capito, again, for very obvious reasons. Bill Cassidy, of course. Susan Collins. Yep. Kevin Kramer, never heard of him before. Hopefully I won't have to again, from North Dakota. Mike Crapo, his last name says it all. Lindsey Graham. Who's surprised? He's a fucking snake. He's a fucking snake. Chuck Grassley, yeah, of course, just fucking retire already. John Hoeven, Lisa Murkowski, old blockhead. Rob Portman, yep. James Risch, Mitt Romney, of course. Tom Tillis, Todd Young, and Senate Minority Leader Mitch motherfucking McConnell. Don't forget those names. Keep them in your mind. And if you happen to live in a state where they're going to be coming up for election very shortly, just remind them that they burdened your kids, and your kids with a lot of fucking debt. And they're going to be the same assholes that continue to fucking overspend, overreach, and create this fucking unattainable nanny state. So, sorry we couldn't end on a bit of an up note, but we're going to move on to the coof next. Yay! Thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Catch y'all later.